2020 legislative session of the Salisbury City Council. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And please join me now in a moment of silent meditation or prayer. Thank you, everyone. Ms. Glantz, we have a couple of proclamations and program tonight.
We do, Mr. President. And this first one, I think, came as a shock to all of us when we found out on Instagram that Keith Eagle was retiring. Broke my heart. But as you can see, you're always welcome back, and I'm sure that Tom will have you back after tonight with the technical difficulties. Just kidding, Tom. But we just wanted to say thank you for your service and to share that it's been a pleasure to work with you and to make us all look flawless on PAC 14. So I have a proclamation for you if you'll allow me to read it, and I hope Sue is standing by to hear.
She is.
Good. Hi, Sue. So, and thanks to you, Sue, for sharing your husband with us on these late nights. But Jack keeps us to a minimum, so it's not that late. So this proclamation, whereas Keith Eagle is retiring in December 2020 after 7-year association with Public Access Channel 14, more commonly referred to as PAC 14, which began when he realized he wanted to use his knowledge in technical theater and acting instruction to help a struggling nonprofit organization. And whereas PAC 14 quickly realized Keith's skill set would be a good fit with the organization and soon gave him volunteer assignments that from its perspective would have scared many others away. And whereas Keith's competence and ability to produce quality programming, not to mention his fearlessness in taking on Herculean tasks, resulted in PAC 14 offering him a part-time position working with both city and county councils, and sometimes a voluminous meetings that entailed. And whereas Keith embraced the job of covering city and county council meetings as he embraced every job, determined to strive for excellence, which he did by setting a standard for council meetings that far exceeded PAC 14's expectations, masterfully producing very watchable programming while at the same time maintaining the transparency the public expected. And whereas Keith took on extra duties at PAC 14 in 2017, when asked to fill in full-time for a month while a colleague recuperated from a health incident, and once again demonstrated his commitment and value to PAC 14, which resulted in PAC 14 cementing Keith's full-time status with the PAC 14 organization. And whereas Oz had its wizard behind the curtain, so did PAC 14 and the city of Salisbury and Keith Eagle. Both organizations were lucky to have worked with him these last years and will surely miss his steady and competent presence in the future. Now, therefore, I, Julia Glenn, City Administrator of the City of Salisbury, do hereby proclaim December 14th, 2020 as Keith Eagle Day in our city in recognition and celebration of his dedication to broadcasting excellence. With gratitude on behalf of all meeting participants, he helped navigate the live broadcast process, and all citizens who were able to participate in municipal meetings via PAC 14 broadcast with the same transparency as if they had attended in person. And with sincere best wishes for an enjoyable and well-deserved retirement, Keith, your retirement goes live in 3, 2, 1, go.
Thank you. I mean, it sounded exhausting just to know that I did all that. So, and not without a lot of help, and certainly from all of the council, who is a phenomenal group. I've never seen so many people from different persuasions or thoughts or feelings about things get together and accomplish so much, but do it with such teamwork and great humor. And it's certainly due to each and every individual. And Julia, I have to call you out because you're not only taking on the function of 2 positions, one of them being acting mayor, but Julia's been hosting these meetings since the beginning. So she's also kind of a PAC 14 recruit as well. So, and I also wanted to thank Jack for his leadership and his mentoring, and also the 2 guys that are sitting in the studio today, Craig and Tom, who had a lot to do with behind the scenes of how things went. But I'm really very moved. I'm a little kind of blown away by all this, and I've certainly never had a day before, and I couldn't have asked for anything kinder or nicer, and I really appreciate it and wish all of you a blessed Christmas and New Year, and that 2021 will be a good year for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Really appreciate it. Well deserved, my friend, well deserved.
Well, I'm sure I'll see you all around.
Well, go
Definitely.
enjoy your evening. You're not working. Get out of here.
No, we're going to watch the rest of the meeting on PAC 14.
Oh, okay.
True PAC 14 person.
Thank you.
Ms. Glanz, you are up again.
Yes, so we have a special certificate of appreciation for one of our outstanding city interns, Brielle, but I do want to turn it over to Alyssa, who was Brielle's supervisor and colleague, who can speak to her work before I present the certificate. So Alyssa.
Thank you, Acting Mayor Glanz. So Brielle is, I just can't say enough how much I appreciate her working with me. Not just this past semester, but she started her internship in the spring of 2020. And then when everything was disrupted from the pandemic, because it's been such a crazy year, she decided to press on and continue working with me over the summer and then throughout the fall of this year. So we really had a 3-semester-long internship, and she has successfully updated the City of Salisbury's greenhouse gas emission inventory, which is it's a remarkable project. It is technical, it's complicated, and neither one of us had done this before. So we worked together, and I've just been so proud of her and this accomplishment. It means so much. You know, we can't work to improve our live sustainability or our environmental footprint if we don't know where we are. So this greenhouse gas emissions inventory is really critical for having the data to know where we are now, so we know where we want to be in the future. So I just want to say again, thank you so much, Brielle, it's been an honor and a pleasure to work with you over these past 3 semesters, and please stay in touch.
And Brielle, I'll share my screen so you can see our certificate, which we will get in the mail to you. And sorry, we can't take a picture with you like we normally would, but it's a certificate of appreciation for outstanding service to the city through her work as a sustainability internship. And it goes on to touch on the greenhouse gas emissions inventory. And we're so excited to present this to you. And I think it's already in the mail. But I do want to say thank you on behalf of the entire city of Salisbury. We, for those that are watching, like to give really hands-on experiences to our interns. And Alyssa and Amanda, thank you for providing that real-world experience. And hopefully, Brielle, it's a big resume booster, and we're always here if you need anything or if you want to come back and work with Alyssa more. So, did you have anything you'd like to share about your experience?
Yeah, thank you so much. This is so special. I really, really, really enjoyed my internship experience. It was super hands-on, and I started as something different and evolved, and I got so much more out of it than I ever could have imagined. I think that I gained a lot of professional experience, but also just life skills, like even Excel and using that. So I think that I'm just really super appreciative for the whole experience. And thank you so much, Alyssa, for being a great mentor this whole time. You've become not just my mentor, but a friend, I feel like. And I'm really just super grateful. And as Acting Mayor Glanz said, this will definitely be a resume booster, and it's really encouraged me to consider local government when I graduate in August. So thank you so much. This is really special.
Hopefully you're going to stay local. That would really be
deciding
nice.
Deciding that now. I'm actually at home in Philadelphia right now, so gonna kind of figure out where I'll land after graduation. But Salisbury has definitely become my home away from home during my time at SU.
Great, thank you, Brielle. Ms. Glanz, would you like to introduce our program tonight?
Certainly. So we have a special guest with us. Claire from the United Way is taking her Alice report on the road. And if you haven't had an opportunity to hear from Claire, she does outstanding work with the United Way, and United Way has been a fantastic partner over the year, but the city of Salisbury and United Way certainly have strengthened their relationships this year with dealing with the pandemic and trying to serve those that are most vulnerable. So thank you, Claire, for your work there. And this presentation is to show us about the folks that are a little bit above poverty, that or the federal poverty level that are still falling through the gaps that we need to pay close attention to. So Claire, I'll turn it over to you, and we're excited to hear from you.
Thank you so much. Okay, is everybody seeing this PowerPoint I'm sharing with you? Awesome. Okay, so that was a great introduction to the new ALICE report that we're going to talk about. And so ALICE is an acronym. It stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. So as Julia said, these are the folks who are working and are considered above the federal poverty level, but are still struggling to make ends meet. So some very quick background on the ALICE project. For Maryland, this is our third iteration, our third Maryland ALICE report. We joined 21 states in total who have ALICE reports. You can see them there in blue. And notice that website at the bottom, unitedforalice.org. So if you're interested in seeing any of the other state reports, that is where you can check them out. Among the research body that put together this report is Beacon from Salisbury University. So there were local eyes on our local data. And we also like to recognize that Beacon and the Community Foundation financially supported this project along with our United Way and United Ways throughout the state of Maryland. So we thank them for that. So of course, as we said, ALICE are the folks who are working and are not considered in poverty, but are still struggling to meet basic expenses for things like housing, childcare, transportation, and healthcare. And of course, as we know, they cut across all demographics. Now, this data in the new ALICE report was from 2018. But there is a sort of addendum report specifically about the impacts of the pandemic and the fact that it has only exacerbated the issues that were already being seen in the earlier data. At particular risk, according to the research, is the 18% of households across the state who had just barely crossed the ALICE threshold to sort of reach the ability to cover their basic expenses, but have probably lost ground due to the pandemic. And so throughout this presentation and throughout the report, you hear us refer to something called the ALICE threshold. So folks who fall below the ALICE threshold includes those who are considered in poverty based on federal guidelines and are ALICE households. So sort of a total of all of the households in the state that are struggling financially. Also included in this report is some good information about the effects of ALICE in poverty, specifically on African-American households, and the disproportionate effects that we see on those. So you can see the total for the state of Maryland of those below the ALICE threshold is 39%. But if you're looking at African-American households, it's 50%. And from 2010 to 2018, there was a slight improvement if you're looking at white households, but for African-American households, there was an increase of 9% falling below the ALICE threshold. And you can see that represented visually there by the graph. Also disproportionately affecting very young people and single female-headed households with children, so our single moms. So as I said, this is our third ALICE report for Maryland, and each one is better than the next. So what we're seeing new and improved for this 2021, more local data, a lot more complexity in the types of households that are represented. We'll talk more about that in a bit, but that includes having information particularly about budgeting information related to seniors, knowing that they're facing some different financial issues there. Also something new and exciting, a tool called the ALICE Essentials Index. And that's a way of looking at the changes in costs for those basic services that we're talking about here with ALICE. And so the Alice Essentials Index, you can see it's represented here by the blue line. It's in contrast to the older model, which is called the Consumer Price Index. You might be familiar with that because it's used for a lot of things, but it tends to underestimate the cost of basic expenses and also the increase in cost. So you can see with the Alice Essentials Index, not only are the prices higher, but they're rising at an increasing rate, but definitely a more realistic tool to use for looking at those changes in costs. So a lot of what you see in the Alice report is about these budgets and the difference between a survival budget for a household and a stability budget. And what makes the big difference, of course, is the ability to set aside savings to have for any sort of unexpected financial emergencies that occur. And so I want to draw your attention to the big giant red arrow there at the bottom. So at unitedforalice.org/Maryland, that is where you can find these new and exciting interactive data tools that are available as part of the report for the first time. And among that, you can find these very detailed budgets specific to each county. So for Wicomico County, you can find stability and survival budgets for all different family compositions, different number of adults, different numbers of seniors, different numbers of children, whether those children are school age or whether they're young enough to require childcare, and all of the financial impacts for that. So this is the first time that this report has included data that's really that highly specific and local and detailed with those family groups. So it's definitely worth checking out because I think that information will be very worthwhile to see. So of course, the E in Alice stands for employed, and you can see there on the graph some typical sort of Alice jobs that our folks have. And most of them, of course, are these low-wage jobs. And so for the purpose of this study, low-wage jobs are defined as paying less than the wage needed for 2 workers in a household to afford the stability budget for a family of 4. And here, looking at those low-wage jobs represented by the darker blue there, not only do they represent the greatest number of jobs throughout the state, but that's where we're really seeing the growth in jobs. So as we know, when jobs are added to the economy, that does not necessarily translate into the ability of people to support themselves and their families by having those jobs. Now, one of the things that everybody loves about the Alice report is the fact that for each county, there's a little mini report available. And you can download those reports at our local United Way website. We have them separated out as PDFs. So if you just want to see Wicomico, you can go there and download that. And so this is sort of some of that data pulled from the Wicomico report. But the bottom line is that in Wicomico, 43% of our households fall below the Alice threshold, meaning they're either considered in poverty or Alice. And so here's a little snapshot of how that looks compared to our other lower shore counties. So our neighbors down in Somerset actually have the highest percentage of struggling families in the state at 57%. And if you look at our total for the 4 counties average, we're looking at 46%. And remember, that's in contrast to the 39% struggling in the overall state of Maryland. Now, again, the big red arrow is those great data tools and where you can find them. So among what is available for the first time, there's tons of great stuff. But I think it's really cool that for the first time, we have the ability to sort of pull out by county. You can see that screenshot I did. We've got Wicomico here, and we can get Alice data within the county by zip code, by subdivision, and by census designated place. So I think this will be particularly interesting to you guys because for the first time you can look really at stuff that falls within the city limits as compared to the greater Wicomico County as a whole in several different ways. So it's worth going out and checking. You can see my screenshot there was Camden is what is represented there. And the darker colors represent the higher levels of Alice in poverty. So again, check out those tools. And of course, this report, it's not just about identifying the problems, but also about generating solutions for them. So the researchers have identified a few areas where we can invest as a community to help mitigate some of the effects of being in Alice and in poverty. And that includes increasing access to our public libraries, disaster recovery efforts when those become necessary, internet access. Of course, we all know about the digital divide, and investing in addictions resource, which we all know has been a priority in our communities. So continuing on that theme, there's a lot of great data in the report about the positive effects if we are able to take those families that are below the ALICE threshold and raise them up above that. And so this graphic really focuses on what is that economic benefit if we were able to do that. And you can see it's that $80 billion a year we would like to see added to our state economy. But there's also information included in the report about what are those societal and community positive effects if we were able to achieve that as well. So now that you know that you can find all this great information in the ALICE report, what are you going to do with that? And of course, our hope is that our partners in the community will use it as a tool to look at their current programming, look at the gaps in programming, use it as a tool for resource development. I know for those of you who do this kind of work in the community, a lot of the information in the report is not going to be surprising to you, but it is a wonderful tool to have that data to be able to substantiate the needs that you're seeing and observing anecdotally throughout the community with the work that you're doing. So a very quick mention about a second study that is available through our United Way, and it is called The Impacts of the Benefits Cliff. And now you may be familiar with this concept of the benefits cliff, and it's the situation where smallish amounts of increased earned income results in a disproportionate loss of access to public benefits, leaving households with less resources overall, so represented there by the left-hand side where they're in the red, and then all of the subsequent effects that happen when families and households face that situation. So tomorrow, our United Way is offering a virtual training all about this benefits cliff study. And so if anybody is interested in that, it's open to the public. They can just contact me through the email there to get registered. But this benefits cliff study, it is a very lengthy and dense report. So it's definitely worth investing the hour to attend the training and sort of get the lowdown on what is in the report rather than, slogging through the 170 pages of the report. So definitely if there's anybody at City of Salisbury at Town Hall that is interested or members of the public, please join us. And again, a reminder of where you can find both of these reports. They're at the top, our local United Way website. They're free for download, so please take a look. And again, that unitedforalice.org, that's where you're going to find the other state reports outside of Maryland, as well as the Maryland data tools, all of those interactive fun things that we're really excited about. So I know we don't have a lot of time, but I'm happy to take any questions, or you can follow up with me, and I'm available to give these presentations about either report to any group that has an interest. So I thank you.
Thank you, Claire. Really appreciate it. There's a lot of information in here. Could you please make sure that you get a copy of this to Kim so that the council members can look it over at their leisure? It would certainly help us. And we thank you for giving us that amount of information in a very, very orderly manner. We appreciate it very much. Let me ask real quick if they have any questions. Mr. Boda?
No questions. Thank you for all that you do.
Ms. Jackson?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Blake?
No questions. It's very, very informative. Thank you very much.
And Mrs. Gregory?
No questions. I was just poking around on the website for a minute, and it's really an amazing tool. So awesome. Thank you for the info.
Thank you. Thanks again, Claire. We really appreciate it. All right, this time I'll call for a motion and a second to adopt the legislative agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda and Ms. Blake. All those in favor of the legislative agenda as printed, please signify by saying aye. Mr. Boda?
Aye.
Ms. Jackson?
Aye.
Ms. Blake?
Aye.
Mrs. Gregory?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The vote is 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So move.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, and we'll give it to Mrs. Gregory. Ms. Nichols, good evening.
Good evening. On the consent agenda tonight, we have the November 9th, 2020 council meeting minutes, resolution number 3081, approving the reappointment of Greg Tyler to the Disability Advisory Committee for the term ending December 2023, and resolution number 3082, approving the reappointment of Virginia Hussey to the Friends of Poplar Hill Mansion for term ending November 2023. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Mr. Boda?
None.
Ms. Jackson?
None.
None.
Ms. Blake?
None.
Mrs. Gregory?
None.
I'll call the motion. All those in favor of the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye. Mr. Boda?
Aye.
Ms. Jackson?
Aye.
Ms. Blake?
Aye.
Mrs. Gregory?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Consent agenda is passed by a vote of 5-0. I want to thank Greg Tyler, who's been on the Disability Committee when I was the representative for a few years, and also a very well-known person to all of us, Ginny Hussey. And thank you, Ginny, for your continued support of the program. At this time, we'll have a presentation of the fiscal 20-year audit and financial statements. And I'd ask Director Keith Cordry to kick us off.
Good evening, everyone.
Good
I'm
evening.
going to turn things over to Tim Sawyer from Barbara Keene Thornton.
Thank you, Keith. Good evening, everyone. I want to just give you a real quick overview. I know at the work session, we kind of went over the results. I showed you some charts with some financial numbers. And then I'll entertain any questions if anybody has any. So with the audit report, which was the final PDF copy went out to Keith this afternoon. We did issue unmodified or clean audit opinions on all the opinion units for the city, which are your governmental activities, your business type activities, all of your major funds, as well as the aggregate fund information, which are your non-major funds. Also, we gave unmodified or clean opinions on your report on your internal control or financial reporting, as well as the report on compliance for each major fund and internal control over compliance required by the uniform guidance for your single audit because you had over $750,000 of federal expenditures. With those last two reports, we also report if there are any findings or compliance issues, and I'm happy to tell you that there were no findings or compliance issues as well there. So overall, really clean audit. And just to touch on that, so as part of the audit procedures, what we do, obviously I mentioned before that we test your transactions, cash receipts, cash disbursements, and payroll cycles. And some of what that entails is, we're looking for, supporting documentation for your balances. And we do that through third-party confirmation, reviewing your supporting documentation for the transactions, whether it be for cash receipts, looking at deposit slips, the bank reconciliations, other supporting documentation such as, grant awards when you get a grant. On the cash disbursement side, it's looking at the invoices that are presented for payment. Do those invoices represent, true expenditures of the city? Are they properly approved? And the checks, et cetera, are they included in the bank reconciliations? And payroll is looking at, your time reports or timesheets. Do the calculations for payroll to make sure that people are being paid correctly, and also the bank recs again to see if those payroll transactions are clearing in a timely manner. And when we were able to do all of that, then we can form our opinions, which, as I mentioned before, are unmodified or clean. So a good good audit report for the city. And if anybody has any questions on any of the numbers or in the draft that you reviewed, I can address any of those now. And
Any questions or comments, Mr. Boda,
No questions.
Ms. Jackson,
No questions, no comments.
Ms. Blake,
No questions, just very impressed with the audit.
and Mrs. Gregory?
No questions or comments.
All right, I have no questions as well. So I'll call the motion. I need a motion and a second to accept the audit.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda and Mrs. Gregory. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Mr. Boda,
Aye.
Ms. Jackson,
Aye.
Ms. Blake,
Aye.
Mrs. Gregory,
Aye.
the chair votes aye. So the audit is accepted by a vote of 5-0. Thank you, Tim, for doing a good job. And Keith, again, you and your crew, thank you so much. I can remember our first audit years ago, and every year it's gotten better. I'm still amazed that we have clean reports year after year after year. I'm trying to think back to my career and see what year, if any, that I had a clean audit, and I can't remember one where we didn't have at least one minor issue. So congratulations, Keith, and keep up the good work.
If I could, I have Sandy Green here with us tonight, and she's the Assistant Director of Finance and Accounting, and she deserves some special recognition, as well as Olga Butar, who's the Assistant in charge of Operations. Both have done outstanding work, and the city's very fortunate to have both of those work for us, and also the entire staff. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Keith. Yeah, we applaud your effort.
I'd like to say my thanks too to Keith and his crew, Sandy and Olga as well. They're very helpful in getting us all the information, especially this year, which was much different than any previous year's audit. So.
Thanks again, Tim. Appreciate it. I'll entertain a motion to approve resolution number 3083.
So move.
Second.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, Ms. Blake,
And they would set up the chessboard.
Ms. Glantz, are you handling, or is Mr. Kitzrow?
No, I've got this one.
Okay.
Resolution number 3083, a resolution of the City of Salisbury to update the employee handbook by amending Chapter 10 to include additional requirements for an employee to resign in good standing. Whereas the City of Salisbury has an employee handbook, and whereas the Mayor's Office and the Human Resources Department have reviewed the employee handbook, and whereas the Mayor's Office and the Human Resources Department recommend updating the employee handbook, and whereas the City of Salisbury desires to amend the employee handbook in segments, and whereas the City of Salisbury has already amended chapters 1 through 4 and will amend the rest of the employee handbook in future resolutions, and whereas the recommended changes have been approved by the mayor and reviewed by the City Council. There it is.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Mr. Boda,
No questions or comments.
Ms. Jackson, did we lose? April, are you on, or you just not muted? We might have lost you.
Yeah, she was having trouble earlier.
Okay. We'll come back and see if she joins before we finish the vote. Mrs. Gregory.
Yeah. Good.
Okay. The chair votes aye.
April, you back on?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute. April, questions or comments?
No questions or comments, Jack. I can hear you, but I'm just having some problems.
Okay, no problem. All right, well, I'll call the vote now. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Mr. Boda,
Aye.
Ms. Jackson,
Aye.
Ms. Blake,
Aye.
Mrs. Gregory,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. The vote is 5-0. We have two public hearings tonight relative to the Hall Drive long property annexation. And Ms. Glanz will do the presentation. I'll call for a motion now and a second to approve resolution number 3065.
So move.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Boda. Ms. Glanz, will you please read the resolution?
Yes, resolution number 3065, a resolution of the city of Salisbury proposing the annexation to the city of Salisbury of certain area of land contiguous to and binding upon the corporate limit of the city of Salisbury to be known as Hall Drive long property annexation, beginning for the same at a point on the corporate limit, said point lying on the westerly side of South Division Street, said point being across from the southwesterly corner of Lot 1, Block C of Wycomico Commons subdivision, and also being a corner of the existing corporate limits line of the city of Salisbury, Maryland, continuing around the perimeter of the affected property to the point of the beginning containing all of map 048 parcels 208 and 067 containing 1.260 acres more or less.
Thank you. If there's anyone wishing to speak on this topic, please identify yourself and be sworn in by the city clerk. Hearing none. Well, first I'll open the public hearing. Anybody wishes to speak? One more try. Please identify yourself. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and I'll call the vote on resolution number 3065. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Mr. Boda,
Aye.
Ms. Jackson,
Aye.
Ms. Blake,
Aye.
Mrs. Gregory,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Resolution number 3065 is approved by a vote of 5-0. I'll now call for a motion and a second to approve resolution number 3066.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I'll give it to Mr. Boda and Ms. Jackson. Ms. Glanz, will you please read the resolution 3066?
Resolution number 3066, a resolution of the city of Salisbury to adopt an annexation plan for a certain area of land contiguous to and binding upon the corporate limit of the city of Salisbury to be known as Hall Drive, long property annexation, beginning for the same at a point on the corporate limit, said point lying on the westerly side of South Division Street, said point being across from the southwesterly corner of Lot 1, Block C of Wycomico Commons subdivision, and also being a corner of the existing corporate limits line of the city of Salisbury, Maryland, continuing around the perimeter of the affected property to the point of beginning containing all of map 048, parcels 208 and 067 containing 1.260 acres more or less.
Thank you. Is there anyone on the call that wishes to speak on this topic? Please identify yourself and be sworn in by the city clerk. All right, this time I'll open the public hearing. And I'll ask again if anybody wishes to speak on this topic. Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing and I'll call for the vote on resolution number 3066. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Mr. Boda,
Aye.
Ms. Jackson,
Aye.
Ms. Blake,
Aye.
Mrs. Gregory,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Resolution number 3066 is passed by a vote of 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2632 for the second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Blake and Ms. Jackson. Mr. Tillman, good evening.
Good evening. This is an ordinance of the city of Salisbury to authorize the mayor to enter into a contract with Wycomico County Health Department for the purpose of accepting grant funds in the amount of $26,274.44 and to approve a budget amendment to the FY 2021 grant fund to appropriate these funds for the purchase of air purifiers and replacement filters for use in small city office spaces and critical need COVID-19 supplies for distribution to the public by the Vulnerable Populations Task Force. Whereas the Wycomico County Health Department received a direct allocation of funds through the Federal Coronavirus Relief Fund. And whereas the purpose of the CRF is to help support expenditures incurred due to the public health emergency related to COVID-19. And whereas the city of Salisbury submitted grant fund requests to the Wycomico County Health Department for funding to assist with the purchase of air purifiers and replacement filters for use in small city office spaces and critical need COVID-19 supplies, which will be distributed to the public by members of the Vulnerable Populations Task Force. And whereas the Wycomico County Health Department has awarded the city funds in the amount of $26,274.44, and whereas the city must enter into a grant agreement with the Wycomico County Health Department to define how these funds must be expended, and whereas 7-29 of the Salisbury City Charter prohibits the city from entering into a contract that requires an expenditure not appropriated or authorized by the city council, and whereas the appropriations necessary to execute the purpose of this grant must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and approval of 4/5 of the council of the city of Salisbury, now therefore be it ordained by the city council of the city of Salisbury that Mayor Jacob R. Day is hereby authorized to enter into a grant agreement with the Wycomico County Health Department to accept grant funds in the amount of $26,274.44. Be it further ordained that the city's fiscal year 2021 grant fund budget be and is hereby amended as follows. Increase the Wycomico County Health Department revenue account by $26,274.44 and increase the operating COVID-19 supplies expense account by an equivalent amount.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Questions or comments, Mr. Boda?
No questions or comments. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson?
No questions, no comments.
Thank you. Ms. Blake?
None.
Thank you. Mrs. Gregory?
None.
All right, I'll call the motion then to approve ordinance number 2632. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Mr. Boda?
Aye.
Ms. Jackson? You're muted, April.
Aye. I'm sorry.
That's all right. Ms. Blake?
Aye.
Mrs. Gregory?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Ordinance number 2632 is passed by a vote of 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2633 for the first reading.
So moved.
Ms. Blake? We had a second? Ms. Jackson?
What did he just say?
Did you say? I was trying to find out who seconded.
I don't know. I know I moved it.
Okay.
To move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Gregory. Mr. Tillman?
Thank you, Mr. Heath. This is an ordinance of the city of Salisbury to accept grant funds from the Somerset County Health Department in the amount of $2,000 and to approve A budget amendment to the FY21 Homeless Solutions Program Grant Fund to appropriate funds for the coronavirus response hazard pay. Whereas the Somerset County Health Department has awarded the city of Salisbury with Homeless Solutions Program grant funding. And whereas the purpose of the grant program is to support homeless services, including case management in the city of Salisbury, and whereas the Somerset County Health Department has awarded the city additional funds in the amount of $2,000 to provide hazard bonuses to the city of Salisbury's Homeless Services Department employees, and whereas all funds shall be used to provide hazard bonuses to the city of Salisbury's Homeless Services Department employees, and whereas appropriations necessary to execute the purpose of this grant must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and the approval of 4/5 of the council of the city of Salisbury, now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that Mayor Jacob R. Day is authorized to accept funding from the Somerset County Health Department for COVID-19 hazard pay in the amount of $2,000, and be it further ordained that the city's fiscal year 21 grant fund budget be and is hereby amended as follows. Increase the FY21 HSP revenue account by $2,000 and increase the FY21 HSP salary expense account by $2,000.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Questions or comments? Mr. Boda,
No questions or comments.
Ms. Jackson,
No questions or comments.
Ms. Blake,
No questions or comments.
Mrs. Gregory.
No questions or comments.
Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2633 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye. Mr. Boda,
Aye.
Ms. Jackson,
Aye.
Ms. Blake,
Aye.
Mrs. Gregory.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Ordinance number 2633 for the first reading is approved by a vote of 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2634 for the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Tillman.
This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving an amendment of the city's general capital project fund budget to reallocate funding for the GOB Government Office Building Roof Project. Whereas Schedule B of the FY21 budget ordinance authorized the city to reallocate unused funds previously assigned to other capital projects to fund the government office building roof project. And whereas the police communications project has $55,400 of available funds previously transferred from the general fund to be reallocated. And whereas the Department of Procurement is seeking to move unused funds from the police communication project to the GOB roof project to provide the funding for the necessary improvements. And whereas appropriations necessary for the roof project funding must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and approval of 4/5 of the council of the city of Salisbury, now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that the city's general capital projects fund budget be and is hereby amended as follows. Under revenues, police communications, pay-go previous year, there'll be a decrease of $55,400. Under the GOB roof account from the previous year, there'll be an increase of $55,400. And under expenditures, the police communications radios, there'll be a decrease of $55,400, and the GOB roof buildings, an increase of $55,400.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Questions or comments? Mr. Boda,
No questions or comments.
Ms. Jackson,
No questions, no comments.
Ms. Blake,
No questions, no comments.
Mrs. Gregory.
No questions, no comments.
Thank you. Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2634 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye. Mr. Boda,
Aye.
Ms. Jackson,
Aye.
Ms. Blake,
Aye.
Mrs. Gregory.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Ordinance number 2634 for the first reading is approved by a vote of 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2635 for the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, Ms. Blake, Mr. Tillman.
This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury approving an amendment of the city's water and sewer capital project fund budget to reallocate funding for the structural study and the park water treatment plant interior improvement projects. Whereas the Schedule B of the city's FY21 budget ordinance authorized the city to reallocate unused funds previously assigned to other capital projects to fund the structural study and the park water treatment plant interior improvements project. And whereas the Scenic Drive water main has $175,000 of available funds previously transferred from the water and sewer fund to be reallocated. And whereas the Department of Water Works is seeking to move unused funds from the Scenic Drive water main project to the structural study and the park water treatment plant interior improvement projects to provide the funding for the necessary improvements. And whereas appropriations necessary for the park water treatment plant project must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and approval of 4/5 of the council of the city of Salisbury. Now therefore be it ordained by the city council of the city of Salisbury, Maryland, that the city's water and sewer capital projects fund budget be and is hereby amended as follows. Under Scenic Drive water main, there will be a decrease in the amount of $75,000, and under the structural study, there will be an increase of $75,000. Under Scenic Drive water main, there will be a decrease of $75,000, and under structural study, an increase of $75,000. Under the Scenic Drive water main, there will be a decrease of $100,000. And under the park water treatment plant interior improvements, an increase of $100,000. And then under the Scenic Drive water main, there will be a decrease of $100,000. And under the heading park water treatment plant interior improvements, an increase of $100,000.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Questions or comments, Mr. Boda?
No questions or comments.
Ms. Jackson?
No questions, no comments.
Ms. Blake?
No questions or comments.
Mrs. Gregory?
No questions or comments.
Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2635 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye. Mr. Boda?
Aye.
Ms. Jackson?
Aye.
Ms. Blake?
Aye.
Mrs. Gregory?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Ordinance number 2635 for the first reading is passed by a vote of 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2636 for the first reading.
So move.
Second.
Ms. Jackson? Mr. Boda? Mr. Tillman?
Thank you. This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, approving a budget amendment of the FY 2021 general fund budget to appropriate funds for the city to purchase property located at 319 Truett Street from Devrico LLC. Whereas the City of Salisbury desires to purchase the property located at 319 Truett Street to continue to operate the Truett Street Community Center. And whereas the Maryland Department of General Services has awarded the city grant funds in the amount of $100,000 for the purchase of the community center at 319 Truett Street. And whereas the Department of General Services will reimburse the city for the $100,000 advance to purchase the property. And whereas the City of Salisbury must enter into a grant agreement with the Department of General Services defining how these funds must be expended. And whereas 7-29 of the Salisbury City Charter forbids contracts requiring an expenditure in excess of the amount appropriated for that general classification or expenditure, and forbids any office, department, or agency from expending funds not appropriated. And whereas appropriations necessary to execute the purpose of this grant must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and approval of 4/5 of the council of the City of Salisbury. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that the city's fiscal year 2021 general fund budget be and is hereby amended as follows. 1, increase current surplus available by $100,000. 2, increase the buildings account by $100,000.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Questions or comments? Mr. Boda?
I think this is a great move, getting this ready just in case we need to purchase it, depending on that grant fund. So hopefully we can be updated on that as well. So.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson?
I concur with Mayor. And I'm all for it. No questions, no comments.
Thank you. Ms. Blake?
No questions or comments.
Thank you. Mrs. Gregory.
No questions or comments.
Thank you. I'll now call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2636 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye. Mr. Boda,
Aye.
Ms. Jackson,
Aye.
Ms. Blake,
Aye.
Mrs. Gregory.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Ordinance number 2636 for the first reading is approved by a vote of 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2637 for the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda, Ms. Jackson. Mr. Tillman.
This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury to authorize the mayor to enter into a contract with the Wycomico County Health Department for the purpose of accepting grant funds in the amount of $27,310 and to approve a budget amendment to the FY 2021 grant fund to appropriate these funds for the purchase of a 2021 Subaru Outback or 2020 Subaru Outback. Whereas the Wycomico County Health Department received a direct allocation of funds through the Federal Coronavirus Relief Fund, and whereas the purpose of the CRF is to help support emergency medical response expenses, including emergency medical transportation related to COVID-19, and whereas the City of Salisbury Fire Department submitted a grant request to the Wycomico County Health Department for funding to assist with the purchase of the 2020 Subaru Outback, and whereas the purchase of this equipment will help serve the citizens of Salisbury and Wycomico County through the SWIFT team while providing basic health screening and education to the underserved and vulnerable populations relating to COVID-19. And whereas the Wycomico County Health Department has awarded the city funds in the amount of $27,310. And whereas the City of Salisbury must enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Wycomico County Health Department defining how these funds must be expended. And whereas 7-29 of the Salisbury City Charter prohibits the city from entering into a contract that requires an expenditure not appropriated or authorized by the City Council. And whereas appropriations necessary to execute the purpose of this grant must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and approval of 4/5 of the council of the City of Salisbury. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that Mayor Jacob R. Day is hereby authorized to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Wycomico County Health Department to accept grant funds in the amount of $27,310. Be it further ordained that the city's fiscal year 2021 grant fund budget be and is hereby amended as follows. Increase Wycomico County Health Department revenue account $27,310 and increase the Salisbury Fire Department equipment expense account by $27,310.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Questions or comments? Mr. Boda,
No questions or comments.
Ms. Jackson,
No questions or comments.
Ms. Blake,
None.
Mrs. Gregory.
None.
I would just like to comment that this is, the SWIFT program continues to do great things. And I want to thank the fire department for their continued efforts into searching out and getting funds for different programs. You guys have done a great job. So Chief Tull and Chief Gladwell, good job.
Thank you.
I'll call the motion now. All those in favor of ordinance number 2637 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye. Mr. Boda,
Aye.
Ms. Jackson,
Aye.
Ms. Blake,
Aye.
Mrs. Gregory,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. Ordinance number 2637 for the first reading is approved by a vote of 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2638 for the first reading. Mr.
So
Tillman.
moved.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, and who was the second? I'm sorry.
I was a second.
Okay, who made the motion?
Angela did.
Angela?
Mhm.
Ms. Blake?
Yes.
Mr. Tillman?
Thank you. This is an ordinance to the City of Salisbury to authorize the Chief of Police to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the university to accept funding from the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention in the amount of $100,000 and to approve a budget amendment of the budget to appropriate these grant funds for the purchase for the purpose of exploring the predictive policing with machine learning project to assist in predicting crime patterns and to ultimately reduce crime in the city of Salisbury. Whereas the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention has funding available, and whereas the purpose of the grant program is to develop computer software to analyze crime data and predict reoccurrence of similar criminal activity based on analytical input sourced from the city GIS and the Salisbury Police Department, and whereas the City of Salisbury and the University of Maryland were invited by the Governor's Office on Crime Control and Prevention to participate in the endeavor as a continuation of the MCIN grant project for machine learning. And whereas the Governor's Office on Crime Control and Prevention has allocated funds in the amount of $80,000 for the University of Maryland for salary support related to research. And whereas the Governor's Office on Crime Control and Prevention has allocated funds in the amount of $20,000 for the City of Salisbury for salary support related to administrative and clerical support. And whereas the City of Salisbury must enter into a grant agreement with the University of Maryland, defining how the funds must be expended, as well as the sharing of analytical data. And whereas 7-29 of the Salisbury City Charter prohibits the city from entering into a contract that requires an expenditure not appropriated or authorized by the City Council. And whereas appropriations necessary to execute the purpose of this grant must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and approval of 4/5 of the council of the City of Salisbury. Now therefore be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that Mayor Jacob R. Day is hereby authorized to accept grant funds in the amount of $100,000 from the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention, and to enter into a grant agreement with the University of Maryland as approved by the city solicitor for the purpose of this grant. Be it further ordained that the city's grant fund budget be and is hereby amended as follows: increase the Byrne Memorial JAG revenue account by $100,000, 2, increase the SPD overtime expense account by $20,000, and 3, increase the SPD consulting fees expense account by $80,000.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Questions or comments, Mr. Boda?
No questions or comments.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson.
No questions or comments.
Thank you, Ms. Blake.
None.
Mrs. Gregory.
None.
Thank you. I want to thank the Chief Duncan and her staff. This is another example of one of our departments going out and finding these funds and getting a hold of them, which helps us with our potential tax increases that would be needed if they didn't do this. So Chief, thank you and your men and women for all you do.
Thank you, sir.
Now call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2638 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye. Mr. Boda.
Aye.
Ms. Jackson.
Aye.
Ms. Blake.
Aye.
Mrs. Gregory.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Ordinance number 2638 for the first reading is approved by a vote of 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2639 for the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, Mr. Boda. Mr. Tillman.
Thank you. This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury, Maryland, pursuant to Chapter 17.228 of Title 17, Zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code, and Section 4-102 of the Land Use Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland for the purpose of amending Section 17.28.020 to allow a single-family dwelling unit in light business and institutional zones. Whereas the ongoing application, administration, enforcement of Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code demonstrates a need for periodic review, evaluation, and amendments that will keep Title 17 current. And whereas the mayor and city council may amend Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code pursuant to the authority granted by the Maryland Code Land Use Article Section 4-101, and in accordance with the specific provisions of Chapter 17.228, amendments and rezoning of Title 17. And whereas the mayor and city council requested that the Salisbury Planning and Zoning Commission periodically review Title 17 in light of existing procedural practices and input from the city council and members of the public. And whereas Ms. O'Shea Ferrer submitted an application to amend the text of Chapter 17.28 entitled Light Business and Industrial District to add single-family detached dwelling unit as a permitted use in section 17.28.020. And whereas a public hearing on the proposed amendment was held by the Salisbury Planning and Zoning Commission in accordance with the provisions of chapter 17.228 of the Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code on October 15th, 2020. And whereas the Salisbury Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of the proposed text amendment to section 17.28.020, now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the city of Salisbury that Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code is hereby amended as follows. Amend section 17.28.020 entitled Permitted Uses by adding item U as follows. Item U will read single family detached dwelling unit.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Mr. Boda, questions or comments?
No questions or comments?
Ms. Jackson,
No questions, no comments.
Ms. Blake,
I do have a question. I don't know, I may have forgotten, and I'm sure somebody will refresh my memory. Can we give an example of this? I may not have been there at the work session when this was discussed, but a single family dwelling in a light business zone. Can I have an example?
yeah, we can, Ann, can you?
Yes,
or
I'm
Amanda?
here. Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
So, Councilperson Blake, there aren't really many examples of this. I mean, this is kind of an anomaly. It's a little bit of a carve out that I think was just overlooked when the last time the city redid their comprehensive plan and their overall zoning ordinance.
Is it true, Ms. Rowan, that that this house exists right now?
Yes, it's true that the house exists, and it has existed since the late 70s. So it's been through a couple of iterations of the comp plan and just.
Okay, so that kind of helps me. So where is this on
Mount Herman Road?
That's right. Now you're refreshing. Now you got something to trigger where we did talk about it. That's exactly what I needed to hear. Thank you. I have no.
And it's right next door to another single family detached home.
Correct. That's right. All right.
Thank you. Mrs. Gregory?
No questions or comments.
Thank you. I'll call the motion then. All those in favor of ordinance number 2639 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye. Mr. Boda?
Aye.
Ms. Jackson?
Aye.
Ms. Blake?
Aye.
Mrs. Gregory?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Ordinance number 2639 for the first reading is approved by a vote of 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2640 for the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Boda, Ms. Blake. Mr.
Jackson.
Tillman. Pardon? I think Angela did too. Was it you?
No.
No, I second also, right, just at the same time, April 2nd.
Okay. We'll give it to Ms. Blake this time. You get it
That's
next
no
time.
problem. I didn't hear.
Okay. No problem. Mr. Tillman.
Thank you. This is an ordinance of the city of Salisbury, Maryland, pursuant to chapter 17.228 of Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code and section 4-102 of the land use article of the annotated code of Maryland for the purpose of amending section 17.212.030 to allow a medical office clinic as a permitted use with a shopping center. Whereas the ongoing application, administration, enforcement of Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code demonstrates the need for periodic review, evaluation, and amendments that will keep Title 17 current. And whereas the mayor and city council may amend Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Code pursuant to the authority granted by Maryland Land Use Article Section 4-102 101, and in accordance with the specific provisions of 17.228 amendments and rezoning of Title 17. And whereas the mayor and city council requested that Salisbury Planning and Zoning Commission periodically review Title 17 in light of existing procedural practices and input from the city council and members of the public. And whereas, Immunotech Biocenters submitted an application to amend the text of Chapter 17.212 shopping centers to add medical office / clinic as a permitted use in Section 17.212.030. And whereas a public hearing on the proposed amendment was held by the Salisbury Planning and Zoning Commission in accordance with the provisions of 17.228 of Title 17 of the Salisbury Municipal Code on October 15th, 2020. And whereas the Salisbury Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of the proposed text amendment to 17.212.030. Now therefore be it enacted and ordained by the City of Salisbury, Maryland, that Title 17 zoning of the Salisbury Municipal Code is hereby amended as follows. Amend 17.212.030 entitled Permitted Uses by adding item M as follows. And M reads medical office / clinic.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. Questions or comments, Mr. Boda?
I think this is a great move and will help provide some more flexibility in available retail space that's become available over the past couple of years. So,
Thank you. Ms. Jackson?
No questions, no comments.
Ms. Blake?
No questions, no comments.
Mrs. Gregory?
No questions, no comments.
Mr. Tillman, I just one quick thing, technicality. The section you were referring to in the land use article, you said, I think you said 4-101, is it, what's the correct code? 4-102?
4-101, I believe.
It says 4-102 on my sheet.
Okay, I think that is incorrect. It's basically referring to the entire section of the code that does that, and I think it begins with 4-101.
All right, well, right now, it's only the first reading. So
Okay.
we can,
I'll check it.
check it and before the next meeting. And if it needs to be corrected, we'll correct it.
I will certainly do that. Thank you for
Great.
mentioning.
Thank you. No problem.
Thank you.
I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2640 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye. Mr. Boda?
aye.
Ms. Jackson?
Aye.
Ms. Blake?
Aye.
Mrs. Gregory?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Ordinance number 2640 for the first reading is approved by a vote of 5-0. I'll entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 2641 for the first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Jackson, Ms. Blake. Mr. Tillman.
Thank you, Mr. Heath. This is an ordinance of the City of Salisbury to authorize the mayor to enter into a contract with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for the purpose of accepting additional community development block grant funds associated with the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security CARES Act in the amount of $227,905 and $244. And I believe that must be a typo there. Let me go down to the bottom. Excuse me. I think it's should. All right, $244,747 and to appropriate a budget amendment to the FY 2021 grant fund to appropriate these funds for the projects outlined in the 2020 CDBG action plan, CV1 and CV3 amendments. Whereas the Maryland State Office of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development has determined that City of Salisbury qualifies as an entitlement community, And whereas the city of Salisbury is therefore entitled to receive community development block grant funds directly from HUD upon HUD's approval of the city's annual action plan. And whereas HUD has received a direct allocation of funds through the Federal Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security CARES Act, which made available $5 billion in community development block grant coronavirus funds to be awarded by HUD to states and entitlement communities. And whereas the city of Salisbury has been awarded funding in the amount of $227,905 and CDBG CV3 funding in the amount of $244,747 for a total award amount of $472,652. And whereas the city of Salisbury must complete a separate amendment to the 2020 CDBG action plan for each CDBG CV award amount received, and whereas HUD has issued special regulatory waivers, alternative requirements for CDBG CV funds to allow expenditure of funds in advance of the final approval action plan amendments when necessary to expedite or facilitate the use of grant funds to prevent, prepare for, and respond to the coronavirus. And whereas the CV1 2020 action plan amendment has been completed, submitted, and approved by HUD, and the CV3 2020 action plan amendment is currently underway. And whereas the section 7-29 of the Salisbury City Charter prohibits the city from entering into a contract that requires an expenditure not appropriated or authorized by the city council, and whereas the appropriations necessary to execute the purpose of this grant must be made upon the recommendation of the mayor and approval of 4/5 of the council of the city of Salisbury. Now therefore be it ordained by the city council of the city of Salisbury, Maryland, Mayor Jacob R. Day hereby is authorized to enter into a grant agreement with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to accept grant funds in the amount of $472,652, and be it further ordained that the city's fiscal year 2021 grant fund budget be amended as follows: increase the CDBG revenue account by $472,652, and 2, increase the CDBG operating expense account by $472,652.
Thank you, Mr. Tillman. We should have put that one first because of the tongue twister that you have in there.
That was a good one.
Yeah, that was a good one. Okay, questions or comments? Mr. Boda?
No questions or comments.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson?
No questions or comments?
Ms. Blake?
None.
Mrs. Gregory?
None.
Hearing none, I'll call the motion. All those in favor of ordinance number 2641 for the first reading, please signify by saying aye. Mr. Boda?
Aye.
Ms. Jackson?
Aye.
Ms. Blake?
Aye.
Mrs. Gregory?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Ordinance number 2641 for the first reading is approved by a vote of 5-0. That concludes the agenda for tonight's meeting, and I'll entertain any public comments. Ms. Glanz, do we have anybody that has requested a public comment?
I don't see anyone in the chat, but you are more than welcome to type in now.
Okay, hearing none, then we'll go. Ms. Glanz, do you have anything for the good of the order?
I do. I just want to reiterate the thanks to Keith Cordry and the finance team. You know, it's so nice not having to worry about that. It's a top-notch group, and you know, I think we're gonna get too comfortable with it at some point. But really happy with Keith and everybody, Sandy and Olga. So thanks to them. And then I just wanted to highlight 2 events that are coming up. Thursday, the Housing and Community Development team is doing a Santa's Workshop drive-through version on Main Street outside of the office on West Main Street. So that section of Main Street will be closed for a couple hours Thursday from 5 to 7. Anybody in the community is welcome to come and get a present from Santa. And then the other event I wanted to highlight is our last one-stop shop for the year. food distribution, flu shots, rental assistance, all of the community resources we've been putting together over the last 9 months or so. And that is at Salisbury Middle, 1 to 3 p.m. on Saturday. So anybody's welcome to come and take advantage of that. And just wanted to say thank you to all of you. And I hope everybody gets some well-deserved rest and relaxation over the holiday break, so to speak.
Thank you. Final thoughts from any of the council members, Mr. Boda?
I just want a big thank you to our finance team. Again, like Julia said, just incredible group that just day in and day out, just consistent and just performing and managing the resources of our community. Because it's not our money, it's the taxpayers' money, and I just appreciate that attitude and that focus. Again, keep supporting our local businesses, and I hope everybody is enjoying the holidays and at least able to Zoom with your family or whatever. So see you all next week.
Thank you. Ms. Jackson?
I too would like to congratulate the city of Salisbury for all the great work that they've done and we've done in 2020. We've done a remarkable job. And I also would like to, we lost a young man who was very instrumental in our community today. His name was Sean Williams. He passed of COVID. He was a member of the We Here Car Club. I mean, a car club that really worked in the community. Were awesome. And I say awesome. And just maybe a month or two ago, they were giving out oven stuffers at the Lake Street Playground. And he had a vision of something that he wanted to do for Christmas. And that would be the car clubs go through the entire city and find a big enough parking lot just to park in with social distancing and make sure the kids were happy for Christmas. And I would really like to see that dream come true because he really wanted that to happen. And I'm going to do everything under my power, Sean, to see if we can get that done. We here and Sean's family, the city of Salisbury, give our deepest heartfelt condolences. When I tell you these young people work, they're just not a car club. They're an advocate for the community. And they work very hard with the homeless. They feed. They're concerned about the youth, the children. They're concerned about the seniors. They're adamant about what they do. Sean, gonna miss you so much. My heart is really hurt. But with that being said, people remember, COVID is here. Please protect yourself. Please get tested. Please get tested. Wear your mask. I'll say it a million times. I can't say it enough. Wear your mask, social distance. We don't know who's carrying this disease. This disease. We don't know who's carriers anymore. And I also would like to say that Lewis Watson, Reverend Pastor Lewis Watson, is also in the hospital, and Pastor Annette Wilson is also on life support. So community, pray. And there are many others, pray. This is a time for prayer because we're losing great people. And not just saying just them, anybody that we lose, it's a great person in the city of Salisbury. So just be careful, just be prayerful, have a Merry Christmas, but also have a safe Christmas.
Thank you, April. Angela?
Just as always, Salisbury is doing a great job. I love our balance between getting the actual business, looking after businesses and our developments, but balancing that with our support for our people, all the grants for our police department, our fire departments. That's fantastic. If you're healthy enough, please give blood.
Thank you. Thank you, Angela. Michelle?
Just, what April was saying, please take COVID stuff seriously. You could download the state of Maryland has an app that can make sure that you're alerted if you've been exposed. Please download it. The more people who use it, the more effective it is. Please be careful. Wear a mask. Don't go outside, or don't go out unless you absolutely have to, unless it's a necessity. Wash your hands. Wear a mask. All that good stuff.
Thank you, Michelle. I second everything that everybody said so far. My wife and I are going to isolate ourselves at Christmas, which is very tough when you have grandkids and great grandkids. But it needs to get done. I don't know what it's going to take. I don't understand. I don't understand why people still refuse to wear masks, refuse to social distance. And they're still saying it's a joke. It's not true. Well, tell those people that have died, tell their families that it's a joke and it's not really real, because it is certainly real to them. On a positive note, we wish you a very, very happy holiday, whether it's our Jewish friends who are celebrating Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas. Just enjoy your families and love each other and be around each other. And I also would like to remind everybody that we do not have a meeting for the public. We do not have a meeting on the 28th. That meeting is canceled. But the rest of the meetings will go on. We have a work session next Monday. So take care of yourselves, be good to each other, and we'll see you next week. Thank you very much.
Bye.